So first of all, welcome. I am truly amazed that so many of you showed up. So when I first looked at the schedule and I saw the time slot, I said, well, we should expect an audience, maybe just not that much of an audience. So I'm really amazed that you took your time and got out of bed early and went out all of your way to come here, and out of all the talks came to our talk. So don't worry, it will be an inspiring talk, at least I hope so. And I hope you will take one or two things home with you. So the product summary, but before we start with the product summary, I want to do a small audience check. So who is a product owner? Can you raise your hand and keep your hand up? Anybody from product management? Keep your hands up. Business analysis. Somewhere close in the business. Who's not sleeping? Some of you still are. Okay, normally this, but in this case it's forgivable. So yeah, today's talk, actually you're very fortunate because we have 3 talks for the price of 1. Which is due to the length of the talk, so I squeezed 3 of my talks in there. But it also has as a reason, it depends on where you are in your product life cycle. So how many of you know this curve? Most of you, if you're a product owner or product manager, you should know this course. This is the Roger Bell curve about how products are adopted in the market. Made famous by, what was the name, Moore, in his book Crossing the Chasm. And basically what it does, it says, well, so you have some products which are only there used by innovators. So if people run around with little HoloLenses in their bags, then you're probably in that category. But it takes some time before it reaches the early adopters in the early first 50% of the market share. This is typically when competition starts to emerge. So I worked for TomTom. First year we had 0 competitors, then we had 2, then we had 254, I think. So that means you're here. Late majority is not so nice to be. That's leaning out the product. It's typically where price and quality and annoying customer submerge. And then you have the laggards. Those are the people who will absolutely refuse to buy your product unless there is no other alternative. His grandfather and my father is a laggard when it comes to mobile phones. He has a mobile phone, but he switches it off. Otherwise, people will call him. So he will start using mobile phones when people come around and pull the wires from his house. That's the moment he will start to make a switch. It's as a product owner, it's not the most exciting audience. So this talk will focus on people who are in the early part of your journey and you're trying to figure out what to do. And we'll explore what Judo Strategy how it can help you. And in the second part of the journey, we'll talk a little bit about what if you have a product and how do you grow it in such a way that you remain successful and nimble and agile. And finally, I'll share with you some of the key traits and seed conditions that I think you need in order to grow your product owners to become product samurai. All right. First part, small versus big. Well, the easiest ways to illustrate small versus big is by showing you a little bit of judo, and I brought a excited opponent. Floris, here you come. Wil je kant van wat staan? Okay, actually he is half judo, half jiu-jitsu, so he does 2 martial arts, and we'll mix a little bit of the both because they're sort of in the same family. And he will show you some of the classic basics that underpin all of judo, and will afterwards, or in between, I'll try to explain what this means for you in a business. All right. Cesar. Maxu. Maxu Yame. Senzenire. Kiritsu. All right, so the first basic principle in judo is about movement, and it's about finding uncontested space. And Floris will demonstrate. So judokas, when they enter the map, they usually walk a little bit like this. And also, maybe some of you are any martial artists in the audience? What do you do? Judo. Okay. Okay. We also have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They usually walk a bit like this. All right. So finding uncontested space. Bewegen. Oh, don't tap the microphone. So movement, finding a spot in where your opponent is off balance or where you have an advantage over your opponent. Second principle in judo. Wat is het tweede principe in judo? Balansverstoring. All right. So once we have our grip and he can make a throw, can you show us an osotogari? Een beetje harder. Nog harder. So that's not working. So what is missing? We had a judoka in the house. So what? Balance. Nou, laten zien met balans. So throwing generally doesn't work if the opponent still has his balance. So the judo is actually a game of trying to destroy the opponent's balance and trying to remain balanced yourself. And it's exactly the same when you're in a startup. Third principle? Or no. Yeah, I also mentioned he also does jiu-jitsu. And when we were laying down the mat, we had a guard here trying to show us around. He said, well, this judo stuff doesn't really work with this balance and this moving arms. And so, well, actually, he also practiced in jiu-jitsu. We do have a different way of destroying balance. So judo is the safe form, but the principles are the same. He just uses in jiu-jitsu you will use force to destroy the balance. Third principle is about leverage, or in Dutch hefbomen. And you can imagine that if you're a small product or a small company or a small judoka, and I'm trying to push him. Well, he can try to push back. Or otherwise, when I pull him, that doesn't really work. So the principle in judo, what we can learn from judo, is if I pull, he will start pushing. Or if I push, he will start pulling. Let's do it. Push, pull, push. Ja. Oké. Dankjewel. Waar je gaat zitten, dan ga ik verder. So, je kan hem op een stoel gaan zitten. So these are the three principles that underpin all judo. And Jigoro Kano, this is actually founder of judo, Jigoro Kano. Let's look at movement. So movement is about finding uncontested space. I'm not sure many, a lot of Dutch people in the room, I presume. How many of you know Picnic? Picnic? Picnic is a very famous, well, more or less famous Dutch company who's trying to reinvent delivering groceries to your house. And I think they've done an excellent job in solving the technical part of it, figuring out the algorithms on how to bring people's groceries together. The difficult part is that in typical e-commerce you just buy one or two products, but whereas you go shopping you buy dozens of them. So they figured that out. They figured out the delivery system. They figured out how to keep stuff cool and move it around in the city. The only problem is that they started out very small. And they had not heard about judo principles. So instead they did something what I don't think is particularly brilliant. But they listened to their marketing manager. And what will a marketing manager tell you? Does anybody know? Make as much noise as possible. And because if you make a lot of noise, people will hear about you. If they hear about you, they may come. If they come, they may buy something. So that makes sense. And they did this. They actually they made a lot of noise. They were in all the papers. They were at De Wereld Draait Door. Now, if you're at Wereld Draait Door, then you've made it. The problem is, and you could see this very well at Floris' example, every time he made a throw, he made sure he could follow through. So he finished the exercise. It was not just a throw, it was also moving into a position where you control the enemy. The problem with Picnic was they could only deliver in Amersfoort, which is one town. And they did this very well, but they also woke up the local giants, Albert Heijns, and thought, wait a minute, this home delivery stuff, why aren't we doing anything in it? And always imagine if you start making noise, many other people will hear about it as well. And a very good alternative for them would have been just to print out big posters to all the supermarkets near Amersfoort, where all the customers come anyway. Buy all the email addresses they could find of people living in Amersfoort. Do a direct mail, do anything but going to the Wereld Draait Door, however cool that may be. They made a lot of noise, but were not able to follow through fast. And as a result, they now have a very strong competition who takes them very seriously. The trick is that your opponent doesn't take you seriously. Miyamoto Musashi said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake. All right, balance. So how can you take this principle of balance? One of the cool things that I did in my career was work for TomTom. And it was an amazing company, but most of all because they understood this little judo game. And when we started out, we figured out very quickly that the core thing about the P&D is the map. But maps were really expensive. And actually there were only two companies in the world that made maps. That was Tele Atlas and was Navtec. And they played this game very well. First they went to Tele Atlas and they did what I call a puppy ploy. So you put up the little brown eyes and you look, oh, we are a very small company from Amsterdam. And we're in the automotive business. You know, nobody in cars uses computers to navigate. I mean, they're big, they're noisy and take a lot of power, so that's never going to be a big business. Please give us the map for a very affordable rate. And then they complained a little bit. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you a kickback fee. Every time we sell a device, we'll give you a license fee for the maps. And at some point in time, when we moved to 255 competitors, this market exploded and became a multi-billion-dollar market. And people at Tele Atlas said, wait a minute, this is an interesting opportunity. We should move in this market. But by that time, we already gripped our opponent. And people in the board of Tele Atlas said, well, we're already making a lot of money from these people at TomTom. You see, we have this license deal with these little guys in Holland. And actually, every time they sell something, we get a kickback fee. So why invest in that area? And as a result, we outgrew Tele Atlas and we ended up buying them. So a contradictory move is to keep your enemy close rather than to fight them out in the open. Third principle. Third principle is about leverage. It was in 2009, I think I was in the app business. And this was all booming business, digital media, making apps for everything. And I was brokering a deal with a very big publisher in Belgium, Freudian slip, and we brokered this deal about apps. And yeah, apps are nice and cool and digital and stuff and phones, and then afterwards she gave me a tour of the facility and she showed me the printing press. And her eyes started to glow and she said, oh Chris, this is the biggest printing press in Europe and it is like 3 stories high and it can print so and so many sheets of dead trees per second. And I was looking at this and said, but she's never going to embrace digital apps as a whole because I'm here to kill your printing press. And you could see that competitors like nu.nl and all the things that focused purely on digital used this huge investment that they had made against them. So if you suffer from fighting a larger opponent, look at their balance sheet. There's a little tab in there which says investments. Under investments is the point where they are the weakest. This is where the sunk cost fallacy comes in. This is where they've put all their money in. You can find another way to reach your customer without using the same energy or weight or advantage, it will actually work against them. There's a fun story about a non-IT story. There's a fun story about diapers in the US. They're a commodity company. They produce diapers. So he has 3 brothers and sisters. So we're 4. So I'm a diaper expert. And diapers was starting to become a little bit successful, and then Procter & Gamble thought, well, let's crush these guys. So they printed coupons. I'm not sure if everybody knows how it works in Europe, but they print coupons, you get a rebate, and actually it's just a marketing game. So the more money you have, the more coupons you can print, the more people you can reach. And they could never compete at that scale. So the only thing they changed, or the product owner changed, was change the packaging. And on the packaging they said, from now on, we will also accept the coupons from Procter & Gamble. And this huge marketing machine from Procter & Gamble, which could not be stopped anymore, just worked for them. So that is a classic judo move. So if you are in a startup company, if you're a product owner of a small product, think about these 3 things if you are trying to find a larger opponent. Yeah? Cool. I have no clue how we're doing on time. So in summary, that's my daughter actually. My oldest daughter doing jiu-jitsu. Define competitive space. Figure out where you have the advantage. If people start pushing you, don't push back. There's a famous quote from Mark, I think Mark Anderson is his name, the creator of Netscape, who at some point said, well, Windows is actually a collection of badly debugged device drivers. That got the attention of Redmond. And where is Netscape now? And so don't push when people push you rather than pull. And try to figure out where the sunk cost is. All right, second part. Everybody still awake? Yeah, cool. Second part, Judo Strategy. Well, this has nothing to do with judo, but this had everything to do about focus. And to give you an example and to get you into the active mode, I thought let's give you a sample product. So this is fictional. Eh? So imagine, oh, these are in the wrong order. What happened here? Yeah, actually there's a slide missing. Well, imagine I'm a product owner. I'm a product owner for this beautiful product, and the product is about road signs. See, I made this road signs, and we're absolutely awesome. We're building the best road signs in the world. I'm a product owner, so I have this great vision, and I talked with my team, and my team came up with some features, and said, right, this is when we go. Oh, we can actually do this as well, and it looks great, doesn't it? Ah. So yeah, I talked to the architect, and he said, "Oh, we have this Azure framework and stack and stuff. We can do more. We can even give you the next exit." So, oh, that's great. Let's add that to the product. And then I went up and I talked to the guys in marketing, because product owner means you also need to get your product out of the door. So he talked to marketing. So, Mark, please help me. We need to sell this. He said, "Oh, this is a great product, Chris. We can do so much with this. Actually, we can add all kind of useful information for our users to it. So you can find whatever fuel they have. And we did a customer journey. Maybe people are sleepy, so they can find a bed and breakfast in multiple price range. We have Yelp integration. And that's, of course, amazing. And being product owner means being passionate about your product. So every time I come home, I just can't stop talking about it. And I talk to my wife and say, "Oh, we're building this amazing product." And she says, "Yeah, but Chris, you know, there are more important things in the world than road signs." And she works in a hospital, and she told me, well, sometimes people come in and they're just too late. They haven't found the first aid in time. We didn't know they were coming. And this is your chance to do good in the world, because that's a sad thing. So, yeah, of course, so we added that to the product. So we now have nearest hospital. We have actually, this is the actual phone number. Don't call them unless you need to go there. So that's amazing, right? And I thought, yeah, well, I'm a very happy guy. I'm a positive guy. I have a positive outlook in life. So why think about all the sad things when there are also positive things that we can do? I mean, it's almost weekend. We can also guide people to interesting things to see and do. That would be great. And well, I thought, well, this is sort of the feature set. So I went up to our CEO. Our CEO is an amazing guy. Amazing. He can sell anything. And he took this product and he went down to the golf club with his buddies, and he brokered some amazing deals. You're not going to believe what he did. So yeah, we have McDonald's integration, and Albert Heijn decided to go with us rather than Picnic. I think this is stub data. I'm not sure. But anyway, weather report is a little bit off as well. So the question is, how many of you works on a product which looks like this? Come on. Okay. Well, kudos for you. So this happens a lot. And you have this initial product which says, oh, we need to go to Amsterdam, and we end up with something which looks like this. If it's difficult to grasp, just open all the toolbars in Microsoft Word. And the good thing is I'm here today to show you what the root cause is, why this happens. Right? This is especially for the product owners and the product managers in the room. And if you have such a product owner, you can tell him. The root cause is you. And I met a great guy in France, Remi Gullo from BlaBlaCar. And he told me a really simple trick to avoid this. So I thought I'd share that with you. And basically said, Chris, it's very easy. Whenever somebody comes up to you with a request or a feature or something they want to add to the product, you just ask them a single question. And that is, what the fuck? Which of course stands for first use case. That was what you were thinking, right? So what was the first use case? So what was the original idea when we tried to build this product? Why were we building this? And this is all the stuff you need to do for your black belt in judo. So how much of it do you think you need to know in order, for example, to be blue belt? Half? The funny thing is, if you do a blue belt, you usually have done all of these. The interesting part is not knowing how to do them. The interesting part is knowing when to do them. So the main focus from blue to black belt is to get a seamless flow in your techniques, to knowing when to apply what. Sometimes you saw a little bit of hesitation in flawless movement. That's okay. He's only a yellow belt. He just started. But this should go away. You should get this onsui, it's called in Japanese. You get a flow in what you're trying to build. How many of you have seen this one on Twitter or LinkedIn? It was making rounds last year, mainly last year. So it was making fun of Yahoo getting sold to Verizon and making big mistakes. But what nobody shared on LinkedIn or Twitter was why this happened. And actually relates to our previous slide. So this is the Yahoo page, and this was the first use case. You know, search. We all started out in search, and then they figured out, hey, a lot of people search for news. Well, that makes sense. So let's add news to the site. Actually, let's add some categories of news. That makes sense. And why don't we make it easy to find people? So we add some quick list menus on the site. We need to make a bit of money, so we'll add advertising. And then we had Twitter come up, so we need that as well. We need trending stuff. A little bit more advertising. You can see it's winter now. You know what's happening in our household. Weather, of course, a little bit more advertising. We can make it personal. That was also a trend in, I think it started something in 2015, so everything had to be personalized. You had and you logins, and you had accounts all over the place. And we can give you notifications, and we can give you email. Now we have not advertising because we need to pay for all of this. Actually, we need a menu by now because we've stuffed so much in there. But the real question is, of course, what would have happened if they had followed this advice and stayed with the first use case? That wouldn't have worked. So you get the point. If you forget asking, why are we adding this product, and is it contributing to the first use case, inevitably you will bloatware your product. And this is a really good question to ask your product owner if you're not a product owner yourself. Why are we adding this to the product? Is it actually contributing to the first use case? All right, part 3. We're going on. Let me check. Oh, we're doing well. So part 3, this is my other daughter. She's also on the path of becoming a samurai. And I thought I'd share with you some of the basic conditions that you, or the key traits of a product samurai, and the seed condition. And that's good news. David Hock from Visa, he described how complex adaptive systems worked, and he said if you want a complex adaptive behavior in people, so people are good in problem solving, you need to give them a couple of fixed rules, simple rules, and seed conditions. And he did this based on a study of swallows. Swallows, when they move in a swarm of bees, they have a few very simple rules, like let's stay close together, otherwise the hawk will eat us. Let's keep a kind of minimum distance, otherwise we'll bump into each other. If we encounter an object, let's move around it. And it only takes 3 or 4 mathematical rules to describe the behavior of a group of swallows. However, if you have a lot of rules and no seed conditions, you probably get very stupid behavior, which doesn't work with solving complex adaptive problems. Alright, so the first one is Mohahiro. I hope I pronounced it correctly. This is karate. For me, she's a core example of what product owners should look like. And you see the cameraman like, oh. So I train and coach a lot of product owners, and not all of them, but some of them seem to have taken a pension at 35 but just keep showing up at work. It's what I call the zombie product owner, and they they don't evoke this passion for the problem they're trying to solve, and that's really, really important. So look in your product owner for this trait. It's like about when you're trying to convey an emotion of a problem of a customer, it's about 8% that are actually the words that you convey. And we have Scrum and Agile, and we can talk to all these people, and we've gotten more interaction, but it's still about 8% what we tell. So 35% is the tone of voice, including awkward pauses. If you leave a long pause, the brain kicks in. Oh, he probably said something important. 55% is body language. So if you're trying to tell people something and you're using just words, or you don't have this passion for your product, how are you going to motivate your team? So look for this kind of passion in your product owner. Number 2, this is a different sport. This is Sambo. Sambo is a kind of wrestling closely related to Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is in, I think this is the European Open competition in Belarus. The guy won, just broke the other guy's leg, or close to it. But this is about compassion. I think this is really interesting because it was his opponent, and they were in a big fight, and now he's just carrying him off because we need to judge the score. Yep, score. Kind of funny pants. But and then he carries him off to the first aid. I had never seen this. Typically when we're on the mat, we're opponents, we try to fight. But he's really compassionate about what he's doing. So we have time for a small ethics poll. Imagine you're on a plane and you have an aisle seat, and just across the aisle seat somebody opens up his laptop, starts PowerPoint, and you read Strategic Roadmap 2018. And at some point you realize this is my competitor. So how many of you would grab out their camera and snap a picture? Could you raise your hand? Interesting. How many of you would get up, tap the guy on the shoulder, and say, hey, I'm sorry, I actually work for your competitor, so you probably don't want me to see this. So who would do that? Oh, this is interesting. Oh. Like in the US, this is like 50-50. And in France, everybody lies. Okay, well, for those of you who haven't raised their hand yet, means you're in the third category. which means you push this little button, get the flight attendant, say, I'd really like to swap seats with the gentleman over there. Sit next to him, get a bottle of champagne, get him drunk, and when he runs off to the bathroom, we copy all the files. All right. Moral of the story, do this little trick, not at home, but, well, maybe at home as well, but at least at the office. If your boss gives the opposite answer of what you are giving, or would give, you might be in trouble. There's no bad or good in this example, but there is different than your boss. All right? So keep that in mind, but most of all, stay compassionate about your customers and the problems you're trying to solve. These are the guys I train with, and I like how focused he is. Sven is really focused, ends with Atami strike. And then in the replay, things go slightly different, but he's still focused about the end result. Right, so he ends with a grappling lock rather than a strike. So the end result doesn't really matter. It is being focused on solving the problem. So I hereby would like to rename your business card. If you're a product owner, try or call yourself problem owner. You own the problem of the customer. It is about solving the customer's problem. It is not about making the best, biggest, beautiful product. And this is also a cool question. If you work with product owner and he comes to you with some nice features that he'd like, always ask back, so what kind of problem is this solving? And is there some other way if we could do this? All right. Then decisiveness, this Oshiro, I forget his last name, I'm really terrible at names. So that tennis ball just went 160 kilometers per hour. And he has like 4 meters of response time. I'm not sure how quickly the chain of command in your company is, but in my company it is slower. So if you want to be a better product owner, figure out ways to speed up your decisions. And in general, I like the Amazon rule. So if a decision is reversible, just take the decision. We'll handle if it was the wrong one. If you have 70% of the information, just make the decision. It is far more important that we keep the team progressed and we progress towards a certain goal, rather than we try to find either consensus or try to find all the information. So decisiveness is definitely a trait you want to see in the samurai. Back. So those were the key traits. The final question is, of course, what does your dojo look like? What is a dojo? Anybody know? Yeah? It is a place to practice. It's a place where it's safe to make mistakes. That's why we have mats. These are actually quite hard, but the idea is that you don't get hurt. So the question is, what does your dojo look like? And let me kill the sound a bit. So he's trying to jump a vaulting horse. This is in Japan. And I'm not sure how it was in your school, but sorry for the quality. It's filmed with a potato. Yeah, so I'm not sure how it was in when you were in school, in primary school. My teacher probably would have said to me, well, Chris, it's a good thing you're good at math. Go and have a seat. But it doesn't work like that in Japan. You just try again. And there seems to be an infinite number of tries that he actually can go out and try and fail. So it's really interesting. The colleagues in the back. The rest of the Scrum team. And they're getting restless. Nope. Still red tests. Now something interesting is happening down there in the... So they're fed up, huh? There's Joe from marketing, Annie from HR. That's the project manager. And they're not here to beat him up. Looks like that. So they're here to cheer too and to show their support. It's okay. Hey. So I thought it was an amazing movie because it just very much is an example of what an environment it should be like. And when you look at it, yeah, that's easy in sports or in school, but it's not easy in sports or school. They feel exactly the same kind of emotions as we feel when a team starts to screw up or somebody makes a mistake or builds the wrong feature. So if you want to be a better product owner, a better product manager, it is about you, it is about your traits and the things you do, but it is also about your environment. And I hope that you either are in such an environment, you can sparkle them to be more like this, or you can find a place like that. All right. So marketing says you must Chris, close all presentations with a call to action. I said, okay, I'll do a call to action. So go forth, become a product samurai. For those of you who haven't gotten the clue yet, it's actually about the book that I wrote on the similarities between my product management career and my martial arts career. So this is where the book is, this is where the commercial talk starts. That's where the book is, but if you don't want to pay for the book, this is where the blog is. Most of the stuff is on the blog as well. Yeah, because I also do trial and error, I also prototype, so if you want to first get inspired, this is where you can get it. This is what I love to do most, talk about products, talk about how to do products. So you can reach me at either email, Twitter, or even don't respect my time zone, but I'll I'll try to answer the phone. Questions? No questions. That's interesting. So either I was obvious and very clear to everybody, or you still need a little bit more caffeine to get into the rest of the day. Well, I really, Floris and I really like to thank you for your attendance and being here. That's actually Floris. So if any of you snapped any pictures or movies or stuff of them, put them on Twitter to me or send them to him so he can show it to his friends, all the awesome things that he did while he actually had to be at school. All right, so Floris, wil je nog bijkomen? I'd really like to thank you and wish you all the best for today. Dat was het.